Why is it that the British police seem to have such an issue with the British flag? Time and again, we see videos and reports of officers stepping in when someone displays the Union Jack or the St. George's Cross, often claiming it could cause offense or tension. Yet the same kind of intervention never seems to happen when other flags are flown, whether that's the Free Palestine flag, Black Lives Matter banners, or pride colors. Those displays are treated as expressions of identity or solidarity, and rightly so. But shouldn't the same respect apply to national symbols too? We'll dive into this story in today's video, but before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Right now, only 12% of viewers are subscribed, so join the community and help us grow. It's important to remember that stealing or forcibly removing someone's property, and that includes a flag, is a criminal act. The law doesn't change depending on what kind of flag it is. If police officers are confiscating or tearing down British flags without a lawful reason, that's not just poor judgment, it's potentially illegal. At the same time, this issue raises deeper questions about how the police view patriotism and national pride. In a country that values free expression, why does showing support for Britain sometimes attract suspicion or hostility? There's a growing sense that traditional symbols of national identity are being treated differently from others, as if they're somehow controversial by default. If the police want to build trust, they need to apply the law fairly and consistently. No bias, no double standards. People should be free to show pride in their country without fear of being singled out or silenced. Respecting that principle is essential in any democracy that values equality before the law. Have a watch of this. At the end of the day, this really comes down to fairness and respect. The police officer had no right to remove that flag. It wasn't causing harm, it wasn't breaking any law, and it belonged to someone who was simply showing pride in their country. When an officer chooses to take down a British flag, they send a message that our own national symbols are somehow less acceptable than others, and that's wrong. The role of the police is to uphold the law impartially, not to decide which expressions of identity are allowed and which aren't. Everyone should be treated equally, whether they're flying the Union Jack or any other flag. Respecting that principle isn't just about patriotism, it's about consistency, justice, and the freedom to express who we are as a nation. In other news, Reform UK has been told to get a new gig amid a row with Labour over its European Union reset deal. Sir Keir Starmer secured new arrangements with Brussels on a number of issues earlier this year, including defence and migration. Britain and the EU also reached a 12-year agreement on fishing, but the deal has been widely panned by Brexiteers, who have dubbed it a surrender. On Sunday, a leading think tank warned that the accord would do almost nothing to boost trade, and urged policymakers to look inwards to the UK rather than to Europe to boost growth. While in the past, Nigel Farage has suggested it could mean the end of Britain's fishing industry, and ex-Home Secretary Suella Braverman has labelled it a betrayal of democracy and an insult to 17.4 million Brexit voters. Now, a Cabinet Office source has told GB News that Reform and the Conservatives should get a new gig, adding that it is not 2016 anymore. Very bitter, very sad from Tories and Nigel Farage, the source said. They want to rip up a deal that benefits jobs and bills in the United Kingdom, and all because they are incapable of bringing themselves to have any relationship with Europe. Maybe it is a lack of aspiration thing. Maybe they're just cranks. Cooked Ora farming. It's not 2016 anymore. Get a new gig. The government previously said that it believes the agreement could lower food prices and increase choice on supermarket shelves. Some foods that were previously prevented from being sold in the EU since Brexit have been returned to European shelves, including British sausages and Aberdeen Angus burgers. Speaking at the UK-EU summit at Lancaster House earlier this year, the Prime Minister said, it's time to look forward. To move on from the stale old debates and political fights to find common sense, practical solutions which get the best for the British people. We're ready to work with partners if it means we can improve people's lives here at home. So that's what this deal is all about, facing out into the world once again, in the great tradition of this nation. Building the relationships we choose, with the partners we choose, and closing deals in the national interest. Because that is what independent sovereign nations do. Labour also said the deal would almost £9 billion into Britain's economy. We have reset our relations with the EU, our closest partner and biggest market, to support British businesses, back British jobs, and put more money in people's pockets, a government spokesman said. Our agreement will help make food cheaper, slash red tape, open up access to the EU market, and add nearly £9 billion to the UK economy. A think tank has, however, claimed the EU reset deal will do almost nothing to boost trade, with businesses facing the possibility of higher costs. A reset which focuses on a regulatory realignment with the EU may not be essential for the UK's economic growth, the think tank said. Policymakers would be better looking to domestic economic reform or trading opportunities beyond the EU. A man who tortured and murdered a defenseless man in a drug-fueled revenge attack has been sentenced to life behind bars. Philip Watson, 35, carried out a prolonged and violent attack against Paul Tillett, 56, in his Harrogate in September last year. Watson tied up Mr. Tillett and repeatedly punched, kicked and scolded him using a homemade flamethrower, Leeds Crown Court was told. The 35-year-old killer pleaded guilty to murder and must serve a minimum of 32 years in prison before he is considered for parole. Prosecutor Jamie Hill KC told the court that Mr. Tillett had suffered with mental health problems, including schizophrenia, and struggled with drug addiction. Mr. Hill added that the victim had been taken advantage of by other drug addicts who had been staying at his home. Leeds Crown Court also heard that Mr. Tillett had previously gone to the police after being bullied by Watson. Just weeks before the brutal killings, Mr. Watson allegedly brandished a blade at the victim after saying he was a grass. A witness told the police that a small group, including Watson, gathered at Mr. Tillett's flat to engage in drug use on September 28th. The witness told the court that she was forced to watch Watson erupt into a violent frenzy against the victim. The prosecutor said, Paul Tillett was punched and kicked in the head, stamped on, tied up, burnt with an aerosol can as a makeshift flamethrower, and his ears and nose were cut with nail clippers. The letter W was carved into his head, and he was stabbed in the backside during the ordeal, with the prosecutor saying the attack was effectively torture. Mr. Justice Hilliard said Watson was perpetrated a prolonged and violent attack on a defenseless Mr. Tillett in his own home as he was passing sentence. The judge also noted that revenge was a driving force behind Watson's depraved actions. Mr. Hilliard added that the killer seemed to display a great deal of enthusiasm for inflicting pain, suffering and humiliation on the victim. David Lamb KC, defending, told the court that Watson had a difficult upbringing and was disowned by his mother as a young teenager. The barrister added that his client had been struggling with extreme paranoia, thoughts of suicide, self-harm, anxiety, and general depression. Addressing the court, the victim's mother, Marjorie, said, "I'm living a nightmare and I want it to stop. I have shut myself off from people and don't really talk. I don't sleep very well." In a separate statement from Mr. Tillett's family, they said they felt left down by services after it allegedly took North Yorkshire Council nearly a year to assign a social worker to help the victim. What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you have not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content. Thank you, take care, goodbye.